Day and Collide here on 1FM 91.3 Good Times Greatest Hits. Something that happens in the sport of rugby quite a bit, yeah? And talking about rugby, we got a very special guest this morning in the form of Sidney Kumar. He is the general manager from the Singapore Rugby Union. Welcome, Sidney.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Sidney, good to have you with us. Sidney, you've also been a PE teacher and a rugby coach, and you're also the founder of Sportify Kids, a multi-sport education platform for kids. Very, very good to have you with us. And of course, it's topical at the moment because the Rugby World Cup is going on right now.
I'll tell you this, okay? I've always loved ruggers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've always wanted to date one. And I'm finally married to one.
Okay.
Are we still talking about the sport here?
No, Sidney, don't feel pressure. Okay, I got my husband.
Okay,
But
okay.
the bad thing is, right, when I married him, he had left like the whole rugby thing behind for years. So I feel a bit cheated. You know, now I look back at his photos and I'm like, oh.
So he's not in rugby form anymore.
No.
Is it? Is
You
that
like
what you're
muddy
trying to say?
men.
No, sorry?
Muddy men.
I
It's
find
the
that,
build.
there's such...
Every 3-4 days, my wife looks at me that way also.
What?
Oh, you used to play, right? Yeah, but
Okay, still maintaining. My husband, the build shifted, the bulk of it shifted. But it's okay.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
So for those of our listeners who may not be familiar with the game of rugby, Sidney, what are some essentials they should know about rugby?
it's high impact, high energy, lots of contact, lots of physicality, lots of fun. And I think the main selling point for rugby, especially the 15-a-side game, is actually it's suited for all shapes and sizes.
Yeah,
right.
true.
Not every sport can say that if I'm 120 kilos I can play. If I'm 80 kilos I can play. If I'm 70 kilos, 5 foot, I can still play. Right. So it's unique in that sense, lah. Yeah.
All right, so given the way that the Rugby World Cup has been going, my husband is Scottish, and I believe the Scots are long-suffering fans.
Yes. Still suffering.
Oh no!
Still suffering.
Is he an actual rugby fan as well? Is
He's
he
not.
probably distancing
He
himself
is
from?
shaped like a rugger.
Over the years, he's just
He's
gone further
built
back.
like a rugger, but
Okay.
he cares not for rugby.
Okay, probably
Yeah.
because Scotland are not so good, right?
Unless Star Trek
They
was
are decent,
involved
they are
somehow.
decent, they are
Well, they're
decent.
better nowadays.
They're better, yeah.
See lah, you guys. I feel like that was just such a token. Keep trying. You can do it one day. There will be hope.
So Sydney, of course, the Rugby World Cup has been going on for weeks on end because
Yep.
it's long. Rugby World Cups go long, right?
Yep.
And I just want you to kind of set the scene for us. How has this World Cup been for you?
For me, it's interesting because every World Cup, right, all the rugby fans come out their ashes, come out from their graves, and all the keyboard warriors start to come up, and suddenly all the pundits start to come out.
Everyone's an expert.
Yeah, everyone's an expert on the game. Suddenly you have scrum technicians, line-out technicians,
Funny, yeah.
people who have last played the game like 20 years ago. Suddenly they all come out of the woodwork and say, oh, the All Blacks should be doing this, South Africa should be doing this, France will
Right.
be winning the World Cup, and so on and so forth. But it's that's the interesting thing, right? It's community, it's everyone coming out, speaking about the same game, speaking about the sport they all love or used to play back then and things like that. Personally, the Rugby World Cup, it's just increasing momentum and the way that you see the build up and the kind of rallying towards this grand final this weekend, tonight actually. I think the big turning point was actually all the quarterfinals like 2 weeks ago. So those were some of the best rugby matches I've seen like over the years, right?
Which was your favorite, by the way?
I think no bias lah, but New Zealand, right? Watched them growing up and over the years, and they just have a thing about them. I think the other thing they do very well is also they do their branding very well, right?
Yeah.
So everyone wants to be associated with that all black,
Blacks.
kind of thing.
And the haka and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I have a
That's-
very strong link to the All Blacks. I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you about it later.
Okay, we'll come back. We'll call you
Who
back.
did you date?
We're chatting with Sidney Kumar.
Good
wink,
change of
wink. We are live as well on Facebook, so do join us there. Facebook.com/913. All will be revealed shortly. Good morning,
come,
everyone.
Carol. Who did you date from the All Blacks?
Nobody. I bio only.
Oh, the name is nobody.
I power. I power everyone.
High power. Okay. Hey, Sidney, I need to ask this. How do rugby fans like yourself, you juggle work and then watching the tournaments because the time difference is
Yep.
really, really tough, huh?
Yep.
How's it been for you? Who needs sleep, right?
my wife and I, we're both rugby fans. So
Hey,
Which is cool, which is so cool.
Yeah.
So that works, right? So the kids, they wake up to 2 zombie parents in the morning, not just one. So it's fair, as opposed to me just watching and then my wife up on my case early in the morning. So both of us we've worked out a system, so we are. Before a big game, we are asleep by like 10 plus 11, and then we wake up at 3.
Wow.
We try to struggle through the game, nudging each other along. Wake up, and then that works so far. So
Did you guys meet through rugby, by the way?
we met through
did
a common
she
friend.
Develop the love of rugby through you.
We met through a common friend, and incidentally, she was already a rugby fan.
Nice.
So it helped a little that I was all rugby and socials was all rugby, and day in day out everything about me was rugby back then.
So your
So
first date was just like, I am a rugby player. And she's like, done, sold. Put the ring on it, man. Gimme. Was that how it went?
I tried to be a bit subtle about it, but
You wore your tightest shirt, right?
tighter shirt.
Pants.
Do you want to watch the All Blacks? You know, the kind of pitch. Yeah, so that definitely helped.
Talking about the All Blacks, you know, I commiserate with you because, you know, there's just something about you're right. The branding, they all look good. You know, they seem coordinated. They come out, they do the haka. They're serious about it. I studied in New Zealand also, so that's why the affinity with the All Blacks. Yeah. It was just like, this is my team. The rest can go suck it.
You sure? You didn't date anybody?
Huh?
Sure. I feel like
Rugby,
it's
but
something more.
I think there's a
You see, she's touching her nose.
No, I didn't. No, I mean, I met
tell,
people who
Yeah.
I met people who were on the team, but that's about it. Like I didn't ask for numbers or stalk them or anything like that. But you do go like a little bit like gaga.
Not safe for radio.
It is.
Yeah, it's not safe for radio.
It's not
Family
safe
show,
at all.
family show.
So you and I were on the same side for this year's Rugby World Cup. Okay.
The the All Blacks. We've been backing them for a while. I've been backing them for a while.
Since you first started following rugby?
Since I first started, I mean, back in those days where social media and everything was not so accessible, of course you're open to everyone that you see on TV, right?
Yeah.
So if you watch Australia on TV, you're exposed to that. Whereas now, like I said, the branding and the marketing side of things really push certain teams bigger than others,
Yeah.
right? For us, we are unique because we don't have a team in the World Cup.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Singaporeans, they just get drawn into the sport through whatever's it appears on them.
But why is that? I mean, rugby has been played in Singapore for so long, you know, and we've got great players.
We're talking
right?
way back. We're talking last,
really
1800s.
strong players.
Yeah.
Why are we not having a Singapore team? You know, why not?
There's many reasons. So the gist of it is this, right? So you're right. So we used to play rugby in the national stadium back then, where we would fill the stadium kind.
Yeah.
Like the full stadium, and we would play against like China, the big teams in Asia.
Yeah.
We would do well. Right, so back in those days, and of course we hope to bring those days back. It is a process, but we are working towards that. The structure of the qualification of the World Cup and the way that World Rugby works is now a bit more intricate in the sense that to qualify, you need to be top in Asia. That means beating professional teams like Japan, Hong Kong, Korea, and these are guys that are training full time. For Singapore, not largely, 100% we are still amateur.
Yeah.
So the guys, like back when I was playing, we finished school, we make a 1 hour trip to the stadium, train until 9:30, 10 o'clock, we get our dinner, we go back and sleep. Next day we're either at work or at school.
Right.
As with most athletes in Singapore. So I think we have to be cognizant of the fact, and as much as we want to say we want to go to the World Cup, I think there are other stepping stones. So for example, like SEA Games champions, Asian Games champions, those are things that we are working towards.
Okay.
Those are things that are very achievable in the current context. Yeah.
I have
go
a
on.
personal question because, like, we wanted to actually get our kids. I have 3 boys, by the way, and you know, the dad used to play rugby. We want to get them in rugby, but I noticed that they're starting younger and younger.
Yes.
Is that a problem? Is that good? You know, are their bodies able to take the training and all that?
There are many schools of thoughts. I mean, being a PE teacher and a coach, right? So there are, like I said, there are many schools of thoughts. I think in Singapore, for junior rugby, you will notice that there are thousands of kids playing the game.
Yes.
Which is very, very good, very, very healthy. And one thing that parents need to know is that over at the Junior Rugby Club Society, there are many different academies and clubs, and they have different age groups and different rules for the kids that are going in.
All right. Let's continue our conversation on air. Join us there, 1FM.
That's Bananarama with Love in the First Degree here on 1FM 91.3.
We are chatting with Sidney Kumar, who is the general manager of the Singapore Rugby Union, in to talk about the big match that is going down in the Rugby World Cup.
Yes.
Between the All Blacks and the Springboks. Tell us more about this match.
Yeah, I mean, these are the two most successful nations in the history of Rugby World Cup. They've won 3 World Cups each. There hasn't been a non-South African or New Zealand winner for the past 4 editions. They've dominated this competition. So it's kind of like the dream final, isn't it? I know many people say Ireland should be in there as well, but how do you feel about this particular final?
Just on Ireland, they have been playing really, really world-class rugby this year. So leading up to the World Cup, it's unfortunate that the All Blacks stepped up in the quarterfinal. But on this final, I think, like you said, it is a dream final. Leading up to this, 2 of the biggest countries, the experience, the number of caps. I think the All Blacks starting, the team for the All Blacks have like 1,300 caps, international representations. Just for context, right? A national player in Singapore would get maybe 4 or 5 caps per year.
Right.
So these guys, the entire team, they are going out to the final with 1,300 caps.
Wow.
The entire team.
Very experienced, yeah.
Yeah, and then likewise with the Springboks, they've gone for a really experienced side. Just nice, they've got guys like Andre Pollard, peaking, coming back from injury. So Andre Pollard didn't play much of the group games, right? He only came in late as a replacement. He's their fly half. He's the one that kicked the 3 points against England,
right?
That took them to the final. So he's going to start this game. And interesting thing about the Springboks is that they've caught a lot of flack and for their controversial way of running their substitutions. So traditionally, all rugby teams, when they go into a substitution, they have an 8-man bench. 8-man bench means usually you have 5 forwards and 3 backs.
Right.
5 forwards because it's a bit heavier in the forward pack, the collisions, the injury rates, the fatigues. For the Springboks, they have gone with a couple of games this year, and I think last year as well, or rather since Razzie Erasmus was coaching, they have gone with a 7-1 bench.
Whoa.
That means 7 forwards and 1 back. So there is a lot of
but that's their choice though, right? That's their prerogative.
There is no rule against that. It is controversial because you are effectively bringing almost an entire forward pack on.
Right. That's almost a full scrum.
Like a new team, yeah.
So that is their justification. They want to be strong and dominant in the forwards, and that's the way they do it.
You know, when you talk of New Zealand, South Africa, it brings back memories of the first final they played in 1995. It was just after South Africa came out of apartheid. Nelson Mandela was watching. There was a whole movie about it.
Was that the Matt Damon one? What was it called?
Invictus.
Yeah, that was a good show.
It was, you know, the kind of the whole world. Everyone loves the All Blacks, as Sidney has said, but you kind of wanted South Africa to win it just because of what it meant. It brought the country together, and I always think of that final when I think of New Zealand, South Africa. So I hope it's going to be as momentous an occasion.
So you're rooting for the Springboks, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I wasn't that one.
Sounded like
even though I was going out with a Kiwi girl and we were watching at her house, I was like, yes, come on, South Africa. But I am going for. I have a soft spot. I think everyone who likes rugby has a soft spot for the All Blacks.
Yeah,
it's a country with less population than Singapore, and yet they're world beaters in this sport. It's such an incredible achievement.
Yeah. So again, same thing. So we spent a bit of time talking about Springboks now with New Zealand, right? So they're on the back of a lot of pressure as well. They've got Ian Foster, who the New Zealand Rugby Union have decided not to renew. So this will be effectively his last game coaching the All Blacks. So a bit of story again. Before the start of the World Cup campaign, he was actually on the firing line. Right, they were almost going to lose him, and the players gathered together and they stood up and said, "Hey, no, we are backing our coach. He will take us to the World Cup."
Wow!
So the leadership group stepped up. Sam Kane and a couple of them, they stepped up and backed their coach, and now they are hopefully going to reap the fruits of their sticking their neck out.
Yeah. Are there any players that we should look out for in this final?
With the All Blacks, I think the usual guys that have been performing really well, right? So Adi Surveyor in the forward pack. You have Barrett, right? The 3 Barrett brothers are looking to make impact, whether it's Bodie at fullback, and then Yeah, and then in South Africa, I think those big names and experience will really come in handy. So, like I mentioned, Andre Pollard, I think Faf de Klerk is getting a start. In the forward pack, they have got monsters in there, and like like we mentioned, right? So they've got 7 forwards on the bench ready to come on and turn the screws on when things get tough. So it will be an interesting game whoever is not interested in rugby, whoever is thinking about being interested in rugby should watch this game.
Catch this.
So this is happening on Sunday, the 29th of October at 3 a.m.
Yep.
Okay, so I will come back and chat a little bit more with Sydney. If you've got any questions for Sydney, do send them through via WhatsApp 88550913 or join us on Facebook as well, facebook.com/913. Oh, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Not a question, but Gurmit is saying that, after playing rugby, ruggers take on the shape of the rugby ball.
There is some truth to that.
Kind of true, for
I
my
do
husband.
feel.
Kind of true.
Oh, dear.
Odd shaped fellas.
Yeah.
The odd fellows. The odd fellows.
I married one, so I get to say. I get to laugh.
You get to say that.
I get to.
Hey, so Sydney, when you think of All Blacks, how is it that they've only won the World Cup 3 out of 9 times? Because,
they're so
big them
dominant
up a lot.
otherwise, right? Yeah.
If you look at it, so contextually, right, like Shehzad has mentioned just now, they've got a population of 4-5 million.
Yeah.
Right. So for them, it's really a lot of culture, a lot of it's just in their DNA. But if you talk about the professional era, the professional game, right, you've got England, you've got all these other bigger countries that are paying more, that have a bigger player pool, that have a wider ecosystem.
true.
So let's take England, for example. England have gone out. Unfortunately, they are in the 3rd, 4th placing. So England have players from everywhere, and they are in a rebuilding sort of phase. So they've got, I think, a squad that's generally average age under 25. England starting fullback is Marcus Smith. Marcus Smith,
Singapore. He was based here. Yeah.
Exactly.
What?
Yeah.
Is he related
He grew
to
up
me?
here.
No.
Is he my cousin?
No.
My uncle?
Born in the Philippines.
Can I
but
claim
nice
him?
try.
Sydney, this is how we are, just a little bit we can claim. Hey, he lived
is
here.
it?
He
I know him.
transited here.
No, and I'll
He's
tell you,
We
Singaporean,
embrace
right?
him. Yeah.
speaking of claiming credit, so I coached him before.
Okay, that one is
Okay,
legit. That's
this is a
legit.
proper
That's
claim.
He's
So-
practically your son.
No. That's too much.
Singapore math.
So just on that question you were asking just now, right? About where kids pick up rugby and all.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
From you.
No. so just like Marcus Smith, right? So they pick up rugby at the junior clubs Singapore, which is a very healthy ecosystem.
Yeah.
Many clubs for them to pick up rugby from different coaches, and so that's what Marcus Smith did. His parents were in Singapore. He did his school years here, I think up to the age of like 10 or 11 before he left.
So he's Singaporean lah.
No.
He is lah.
Still trying.
He knows
trying.
lah.
So I had the short opportunity to coach him for a while back when he was like 9-10 years old.
Could you already spot some real...
The interesting thing was, yes. So at the age of 9-10 years old, right?
Wow.
He's better than me.
He and his brother and him, they were doing things that were already amazing.
Wow.
So it's a good thing that they... Not so good thing, but it's a good thing that they sought further development opportunities and pursued the game professionally.
Yeah.
Right, so that's where he is at now, and of course he's a product through and through of Santos Rugby.
Santos
here.
Rugby. Yeah, tough city. Yeah.
Just as a side question, I mean, you say that rugby is a high impact, right? High energy, high impact
Yep.
sport. So, for young bodies, young developing bodies, I mean, what's a good age to start?
So currently, the youngest age group that goes into rugby is under 5, under 6. Now, so you got to be clear with the
But it's not
information.
contact, is it?
Exactly. So they don't do contact until like 9-10 years old,
Yeah.
and that's after proper conditioning, proper technique, proper education of what can be done, what cannot be done. And even at 9-10 years old, when there is contact, it's just tackling. So a lot of the other high impact elements are not included yet.
Until when will that happen?
Until when you get to, I think, 12, 13. So there are many stages of rule changes.
So
Right?
is it like touch rugby that they play when they're younger?
So
They play like a different version of it.
something like that. So when they are 5, 6, 7, 8, they are playing touch.
Uh-huh.
It's one hand, two hands. Once you get touched, you put the ball down, you
Yeah.
pass the ball, and then you continue.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is not to get touched, and everyone goes into rugby with that kind of mindset, right? You know, as kids, you grew up playing catching with your
Yeah.
friends,
Yeah.
running away from people and all that. So that's the idea as well. and then later on, as they grow older, like you said, when their bodies are a bit more developed, when they're physically more conditioned, then they start to go into tackling. And this is after, of course, really rigorous technique stuff. So again,
that's safe.
That is safe.
Okay.
Of course, there are different schools of thoughts and all that to early specialization. Whether you should just think about rugby at 5-6 years old. And I, for one, I would advocate playing as many sports as you can. Of course, right?
Before you.
Yeah, no, that's a great thought. Actually, we'll just recap that when we go back on air, yeah? Because we're just coming out of this song anyway.
Dangerous.
Lots of people do think that the sport of rugby can be very dangerous.
Yes.
And to some extent...
There is that perception, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. All right, here we go. One FM 91.3 Good Times Greatest Hits. Good morning and welcome to the Brightside. Carol, Lavinia and Shehzad with you, and joined in the studio by Sidney Kumar, who is the GM of the Singapore Rugby Union. Roxette singing "Dangerous." Is the sport of rugby dangerous, Sidney?
No.
Oh, he was quick.
So just to write off all the claims, I think there's a relative amount of danger in every sport, right?
Yes.
So the thing about rugby is that perception. I think when you go through a proper rugby program with the proper coaching and the proper clubs, you are taken into a tackle and a rugby ready kind of program. So you are taught how to fall, how to tackle, how to protect yourself in a tackle, how to be safe in the sport. So you can actually enjoy the physicality of the game as well as the other elements. There is, of course, unfortunate accidents that happen.
Sure.
I mean, personal level, I do, of course, have a couple of injuries, but I am walking in one piece here. So
that's a good sign.
Able-bodied, yes.
Yeah. So there are injury concerns. There's an element of danger. But like I said, no, I don't think it's any greater than any other sport if you take the proper necessary precautions and you go through the appropriate coaching protocols and the proper systems.
I have PTSD when I moved to England at 12, and the first thing I did was on this rugby pitch. They were like, "Yep, go, you're on the wing," because I was a skinny kid, so they put him on the wing. I got the ball. I was just like, okay, run forward. And then this guy just slammed into me. It was freezing cold. And that was my first introduction to rugby. I played it for 7 years. It was great fun. But it was cold.
That was back then. When you know...
not so much of the
protocols were not
no
so
regulations.
I like how you've assumed it was back then. But thank you. It was in the 80s. But you're right. It was back then. But thank you for assuming that.
Yeah, it could have been last week because you're so young.
Yeah, exactly.
My bad.
No, you're right, Sidney. You're right.
Yeah.
We were talking on air about how what's a good age for kids to start, because we're seeing kids getting younger and younger, and there's a real following. Lots of kids, joining even before they enter primary 1. Wow. Yep. So what is a safe age for kids, and when should they start? You mentioned about exploring different sports. A good point there.
Yep. So two main schools of thought, right? You want your kids to be active. You want the kids to start learning a bit of the fundamentals of the game, chucking an oval-shaped ball around. You can start as early as 5. Yeah. And of course, those programs, when you start at 5-6 years old with the junior rugby clubs, they are not asking you to throw your boy into tackles. They are not asking you to go into contact. It's more about fun. It's a lot of education about simple rules of the game. Don't pass forwards, run into space, evade the defender, and things like that. And that's all touch and non-contact.
Okay.
Right. And then the other school of thought is, of course, specialize. Don't specialize, right?
Yeah.
Play as many sports as you can until your body is developed, until you are at an age where you are able to understand and pick for yourself which one you think you're good at. And that's something the professional players, like the guys in England, New Zealand schools and all that, right? So that's something they do very well. They don't play one sport throughout the year. Yeah. It's not a full CCA for the year. It's seasonal, right? So I have a summer sport, I have a winter sport.
Right.
So if you look at all the New Zealand players, they are also very good cricketers. They are also...
That's kind of like you, Shehzad.
Yeah, except I was decent at one and not really at rugby.
Oh, okay.
Early
Kinda
specialization.
Yeah.
Back in the day, though, right?
Back in the day.
Ah, interesting. Very
because some of these skills are transferable anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah, you learn
exactly.
how to control your body better, awareness and all that kind of thing.
You mentioned England earlier on, Sidney. We should talk about that third place match. England are playing Argentina.
Yep.
No one thought England would get this far in the tournament. They kind of got written off, didn't they? And Argentina, this would be right up there because they've quite often been on the periphery.
Yep.
So, an interesting match for you. I think England should win it.
Just like I think the quarterfinal, England just pipped Fiji.
Yeah.
Right. So coming to this World Cup, England was not one of the favourites purely because they've gone through a bit as well. Change in coach. So Steve Borthwick is currently coaching now. They dropped Eddie Jones last year. Yeah. And then, like I said, they've gone for a mixed squad, right? So they brought in some younger guys. So they've got a good balance of experience with the likes of Owen Farrell, Courtney Laws, and then a mix of the younger guys, your Marcus Smiths and all that, right? So they are. I mean, traditionally, England has always been able to eke out results. They've got tactical awareness.
Right.
They've got players that are playing at a quite high level professionally in their leagues and their premiership and all that. Argentina has come up the ranks over the last few years since their inclusion in the Rugby Championship.
Yes.
So they get to play New Zealand, South Africa.
That's
Australia.
really helped them at that exposure.
That has definitely pushed them up another level.
Right.
I would put a bit of a small wager on Argentina.
Oh.
They are a very passionate rugby country. You watch them during the anthems, you'll see them cry.
Oh yeah, they're always
Yeah. So I mean, no discredit to England or whatever, right? But again, I'm not sure if the passion of Argentina and the players and the country backing them might, just.
I hope it doesn't follow what happened at the Football World Cup.
Well, England and Argentina have a very storied history in football.
Exactly.
And they did go to war as well about 40 years ago. So there's always that little backdrop whenever they meet. So so you're going Argentina and New Zealand, right, for the two matches? Maybe not.
No, my mind says England, but my heart says Argentina for the third, fourth. In the final, it's got to be New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Sidney Kumar, thank you so much for joining us here in the 1FM studio this morning. And if you have any questions for Sidney, not too late for you to drop them over via WhatsApp 88550913 if you want to find out more about rugby and what can be done in Singapore as well with part of the Singapore Rugby Union. Thank you so much, Sidney, for joining us.
Thank you, Sidney.
Thank you.
1FM.
Hey there! Welcome back to our discussion here with Sidney Kumar, the General Manager of the Singapore Rugby Union. Actually, I have this question from Maita and asking about any plans for a contactless rugby event in the near future.
Contactless rugby event.
Yeah.
So we've got, there's a few variations of contactless rugby, right? So we've got tag rugby. In fact, we're organizing one in Takashimaya, Nian City in November.
Wow.
So if you're interested, 11th November, we are having a tag carnival. It's a 3 versus 2 kind of small-sided game.
Is that the one with the sash at the back?
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
It's fun.
So there's no contact. So
Don't
you don't
touch
get
me.
to,
Just
you
take
don't
my
get to
tag.
touch, you don't get to tackle anyone.
Yeah.
And you look so cute running with the tail.
If you're interested, find out more on our socials and our website.
Can you share that with us, the socials?
It's just go to singaporerugby.com. On Instagram, we are at Singapore Rugby, and then on Facebook as well.
Good
Singapore
spot
Rugby.
as well. Nice spot.
It's fun and it's fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think just on that question about junior rugby, right? So this weekend we've got a big, huge junior rugby tournament with thousands of kids playing.
Oh, wow.
So Saturday, Sunday at the Singapore Cricket Club. It is the Singapore Cricket Club Academy Sevens this weekend.
And at Dempsey as well.
And at Dempsey. So at Padang and at Dempsey.
Oh,
so
wow.
you see thousands of kids going out there from all different age groups, from under 6s to under 17s.
Did you guys plan that with the World Cup final in mind as well and get them all in the mood? And
No, traditionally, actually the World Cup followed us, but so
it's the
traditionally
sevens as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so SEC has been organising this. It's the oldest sevens tournament in Asia.
Yeah.
It's the second oldest in the world.
It is.
So the Singapore
Whoa.
Cricket Club organises this every year. This weekend is the Academy Sevens. Next weekend is the international tournament.
Yeah.
So you've got teams from Malaysia, New Zealand, Australia coming down and compete at the Padang.
Are there scouts that turn up at these events?
Scouts, not really, but there are players that go through the ranks to become All Blacks, to become England reps, to become.
It's good fun, man. It's good fun on the Padang watching this.
Yeah.
Cool.
So tickets are still available at the SEC Sevens website. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Have fun this weekend, Sydney.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big one for you, yeah? Big and busy.
For a lot of different reasons.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good time. Greatest.